Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome to the Panther Insider Podcast, driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen, the radio voice of the Panthers, from our studios at Center Park Stadium in Atlanta. On this latest podcast, we're talking Georgia State baseball with head coach Brad Stromdahl. As the Panthers head into the 2025 college baseball season, last year the Panthers finished with a record of 25-32, 13-17 in the Sun Belt Conference. In our second segment, we'll preview the season with returning catcher Colin Hynek. Right now, we welcome to the Panther radio microphones Georgia State's head baseball coach, Brad Stromdahl. Coach, great to see you. It's that time of the year. You guys going to throw out that first pitch coming up Valentine's weekend with the Belmont Bruins, followed by a series at Jacksonville State. Since the last time you and I talked down in Montgomery, Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament, a lot has transpired in the world of Georgia State baseball, but it's good to see you again.
Oh, it's good to see you too, Dave, and you are accurate. There's been a lot of changes and rollover and NCAA rules and movement within the conference, so it's been a exciting last few months, and we've had a great fall, and we're excited to be ready to go out there and see Belmont for the first time and get this new group of kids out there playing baseball.
A lot of new faces on this Georgia State baseball roster.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's refreshing. We had a really big senior class. We had some portal things happen within the new rules that have been passed down through the NCAA, and I really love where we're at. I think that we learned a lot from, where the world is, the baseball world is going with regard to junior college transfers, portal transfers, high school kids. We're learning a lot with where just the ebb and the flow of the river's going, and I think that we've made really good decisions on people and humans and baseball players to put together a team that is absolutely what we want and where we want to go. And I think that we can take this group and they're so connected and so well put together in terms of what their singular focus is, that we're going to win a lot of games and for sure compete out there. It's going to be fun.
When you and I sat here a year ago and did the Panther Insider Podcast baseball preview, you were telling us that 35 wins was the goal. We fell short by 10, this past year with 25. Yeah, leave it to me to bring that up not once but twice. But when you look back at the season a year ago, of course, there's always games that fall under that woulda, coulda, shoulda, games you felt you should have won, maybe a couple that got away. When you look back at the season a year ago, what are some things that kind of stood out to you that you needed to improve upon headed into 2025?
Well, the reality is that, I do think 35 wins puts you in the conference tournament at where you want to be, 1, 2, 3, 4. I also think it puts you into a place in the national conversation to where if you fall a little bit short within the conference tournament, you're able to get in that large bid, which ultimately, us being the fourth best conference the last few years, RPI-wise, win-wise, and teams in a regional in the postseason play, allows us to have some flexibility within what we're trying to do in terms of the wins and losses, but you put yourself in a position to win that postseason at-large bid, if you will. Learning, I think you learn every year from every single team, and you just continue to put one foot in front of the other. There's a lot of things. I think that any team can go through a laundry list of 100 different things that they would change. But ultimately, what we try to do this year is focus on who we are, what we're trying to do, and really just set culture and set the expectations. And I think that continuing to do what we've done over the last, 5 years here within our program, we took a team that won 11 games the year that we took over, going into COVID, and what we've done with, being out at Panthersville, ushering in a new facility, all of the things that we are always striding to go forward, and I think that we've laid the benchmark to what the expectations are. Finally, with this team, we have the right personnel, we have the right people, we have the right humans. I think that everything is leading up for us to be able to go out there and not really worried about the X's and the O's in terms of, we should have done this, we should have done that. The reality is that we're going to go out there and compete. We're going to have our players are going to be ready to go out there and have fun and enjoy themselves, and we'll see whatever happens. But I love where we're at with our personnel. I love our coaching staff. I love the brightness of the future with the new facility. But we're going to live day to day, and we're going to live in the moment of exactly where and what we need to do today to get better. And I think that ultimately is it's kind of like what we want, and it's like, do you put a slogan on the wall of, oh, you got to try hard, you got to work hard, you got to do better, or you just don't have any slogans at all, and the expectation is just, this is what our expectation is. And so I think that's where we've really fallen with what changes we've made. We've really just simplified it, and this is what we're going to do, and this is who we are, and this is how we're going to play. And when you leave a game with us, whether you win or lose, those guys are going to play hard, they're going to dive, they're going to be 100% committed to that moment in time. And I think that if you can get 35 guys and 34 guys or however many guys are out there on that trip, pulling the rope in the same direction, that's all that matters. And I think that really good, fun, exciting baseball is going to happen and be a byproduct of that.
All right, let's hit a couple of quick topics. You mentioned a new facility. What's the latest on a new ballpark on the site of the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium that you can tell Panther fans?
No, I mean, absolutely. I think that there's still some moving pieces, but ultimately the plan is still to be in there first game of 2026 or 2026 to be able to be in there hopefully for a couple practices, maybe a month beforehand, maybe a couple practices. It doesn't really matter. I mean, ultimately what we're doing is we're playing for, what this year is all about and, going forward. But, as far as I know, we're still in play for a new stadium. I think that there's some moving pieces which have nothing to do with Georgia State or the contractor. It's more about, can we get enough of the material on time to be able to build the facility and so on and so forth. But, I'm excited to be able to go out there. I think that there's going to be an announcement here in the next couple of weeks with a date for groundbreaking. And I think that it's all hands moving forward with having that stadium open and ready to play in 26.
All right, well, that's good news. Before we dive into the roster, let's talk about your coaching staff. You got a couple of new faces there.
Yeah, no, we hired, Nico Bonteo. He went to, he's now the recruiting coordinator and associate head coach at Northwest Florida State down in Florida. And, Coach Chad Bell, who's with us the last couple of years as well, ended up going back up to Knoxville. He's running a facility. He's an agent. And, both guys are doing really, really well. And we wish them nothing but the best and excited to see what they can do in their future. And their replacement, we hired Michael Leader, out of Ole Miss. He played at Emory. His dad's a basketball coach and athletics director, and just really knows the game and understands what coaching is all about. Won a national title in 2022 with the Rebels, and so it was a pretty magical season that they had. I think that they didn't start out very well in 22 and finished as good as they possibly can. So he brings a lot of just a lot of knowledge from a technical standpoint, from a pitching standpoint, from an experience standpoint, being on that Ole Miss staff for as long as he was and having the experience that he was. And then Christian Castori was, we worked together actually back at Georgia Gwinnett College. He was our pitching coach for a bit, I think maybe 2011, 2012. And, him and I have always gotten on really, really well. And so I have a really, really deep, long, entrenched friendship with him and his family, and he ended up going with the Marlins to be a scout and doing a lot of cool things, and kind of was in that world. And as COVID kind of happened, it's baseball's changed, everything's changed, and so he did some other things within the baseball world and just wanted to kind of get back on the field and have a one-on-one connection with players. And the opening allowed us to have another conversation, and we're fortunate to be able to have him. And he brings kind of an old school way of pitching. It's kind of command fastball glove side. Doesn't really matter about the technology or how much spin you got. Let's get some guys out and let's compete in the zone and let's have fun, and let's try to get better every day as a person on the field, off the field, and in the classroom.
Talking to Georgia State's head baseball coach Brad Stromdahl, our Panther Insider podcast, Georgia State baseball preview. And let's dive into the roster a little bit. Again, a lot of new faces. Let's talk about the faces that are back from your roster a year ago, the guys that will figure in.
No, absolutely. I think that, obviously from an offensive standpoint, a few of the guys that are back, we got three kind of mainstays is Jesse Donahoe, Colin Hynek, and Michael McGinnis. I think that those guys played a lot the last couple of years. Jay Williams is right there with regard to, didn't play a ton, but was dinged up a little bit last year, and I think that he'll have an opportunity to play every day this year. And so, those guys are the mainstays within our organization from an offensive standpoint, and I'm so happy that they're here. They're part of the shift in polarity in terms of this is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. They went through the year last year, as you wonderfully brought up, that we were 10 games under what our goal was, but that's okay. I mean, that's what they live with too every day, and they want to win games and they want to compete and they want to do it the right way. And I think that their standard of excellence is as high as mine, if not sometimes higher for themselves. And that's what you ask for from a player. And I think that that's the shift within college athletics, to where you really empower those guys through their experiences, through where they've been and what they want, what are their goals for the team. And I think it's a beautiful thing, and you can see it on the football fields and baseball fields all across the NFL and Major League Baseball. Just how do you compete as a team? And I think that those guys are vital pieces to our success this year. And you go back on the mound, Ross Norman, Dylan Mantella, Quinn McMahon, Sam Schofield, Caleb White. We have a lot of returners that kind of cut their teeth a little bit last year. They sometimes had a good outing, sometimes didn't, but they had unbelievably great experience. And so we're going to lean on those guys. Dylan Matella's a transfer out of when Furman was still a school, so he's kind of like the old veteran of the team and kind of takes the reins. And then Ross Norman and Quinn and Sam and Caleb, they had a lot of experience and got a lot of innings and learned a lot last year. And so we expect them to be able to step up along with other people for sure. But those guys they've had the experience. They know what the Sun Belt's like. They know what the expectations are for this organization and this program moving forward. And I'm looking forward to giving them the ball.
Any new arms, young guys coming in that are going to basically play that role that the young guys that you just mentioned that got experience last year, they're going to kind of the new faces, the guys that you're going to bring in and develop?
Sure. No, I mean, it's there's a lot of them. I mean, we had a huge senior class, and then we had some guys move on within the portal. And so there's a lot of new guys. There's some young guys. There's some older guys. I mean, I think Cole Roberts is one that pops up right away. He's a transfer from UNLV, just pounds the zone. Didn't get the opportunity that he wanted there or whatever. Everybody's kind of reason for, moving on is a little bit different, but I think that he's going to be a mainstay within our pitching staff. Nick Holbrook, he's a Texas State. He's from the area. Had a good year. Wanted to come back home. Jay Cruz is a junior college pitcher out of Pensacola. Probably be on the back end of things, and just really kind of up and down. The pitching staff is a little bit more wide open in terms of what roles and where guys fall into place, but I'm really happy with our pitchers so far. They've really done a good job of competing. They came back ready from the Christmas break to be able to compete. I mean, I think we're going to be able to get 12 or 13 inter squads in, and Coach, this is kind of goes back to Coach Castori and Coach Leader, where most of the time there's a lot of programs that will throw the Friday guy Friday and then Friday and then Friday. We're kind of the mindset where how many times can we get you up and down on the mound? And so we're going to inter-squad a lot more than a lot of other programs. We're going to inter-squad Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays for a shorter amount of time, and then, build our pitchers up over the course of the season, because the first month is important. But how do we get ready for conference? How do we get ready to be able to put ourselves in a position to be able to, get in that large, win the conference, get in that large? And so I'm excited to see what that pitching staff can do. But there's a lot of new faces out there, and there's some freshmen that are going to have to step up, and some older guys. And there's going to be a surprise, good and bad. There's going to be a guy that you expect to do really well and doesn't do quite as good, but there's going to be a young guy or a new face that steps in and does better than you would expect. So I'm just really excited about this group of people. It's so much fun to be around them on a day-to-day basis, and they just compete, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, handling that pitching staff, your extension, and we're going to talk to him in the next segment. Colin, Hynek. Talk a little bit about your catchers and, the communication that goes on from the dugout and what you're looking for from them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, Colin's the exactly what we were looking for and what we need on this team in terms of the leadership, in terms of the work ethic. He's the kid that shows up first. He shows himself to be the absolute team player throughout the course of a practice, a day, a weightlifting session. He is the person that's not scared to, tell an older guy or younger guy, hey, you need to pick up your game, or you're wearing the wrong thing, or whatever the standard is. He is the person that holds it to it. You want him to be it's exactly who you want him to be as a person, as a head coach, and I think that he leads by example in every aspect. And so, when you have a player like that and a person like that, that's just a really good human, that being able to have him behind the plate, you trust him, and then the pitchers trust him. And, it's so invaluable to have somebody that, you call a curveball in the dirt and he's going to block it. You trust that he's going to block it. You trust that he's going to be able to have your best interest and back pick a guy off if you're struggling on the mound, and then on the other side of it too, you come in and he would say, hey, listen, I don't think that this guy's stuff is that good. Maybe we should use a different way of approaching it. Or, hey, listen, I think we can get this player out in a certain way. There's just so much trust and communication back and forth that, it's like another coach out there. And that's what's really great about Colin. It just really breeds the fact that we can go out there and go into a series and go into a weekend and be able to have another in-game set of eyeballs that's a part of the coaching staff that really has, how do we win? How do we make this better? Hey, comes in and, maybe this guy's done. Hey, listen, that slider's backing up a little bit. I think that maybe we should move on. Whatever it is. I mean, there's nothing that he's afraid to say, and there's nothing that we say, hey, you can't do this or we can't do that. And so, being able to have a commander back there behind the plate, and then obviously what he does offensively too, it's pretty impressive. So, being able to hit in the middle of the lineup as a catcher, being able to stop the running game. There's so many invaluable aspects of his abilities on and off the field that I think that it's a lot of fun to be able to be with him and be around him.
All right, the players this year in the Sun Belt Conference, we talk about this every year. We were talking off mic. Troy, Southern Miss, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, as you know as well as anybody, Sun Belt baseball, some of the best college baseball in the country. What was your approach to scheduling non-conference, knowing that you're going to be facing what we're going to call baseball buzzsaw in a pretty good league, weekend in, weekend out, once we get to Sun Belt Conference play?
I mean, it's we set the schedule so far in advance that sometimes you look back and you're like, oh man, that was a little ridiculous. Kind of like our first year here, we played the SEC East, and we got beat up, but we learned a lot of lessons. We learned a lot of what other people do, how to compete at that level, what we needed to do player wise, and so as our conference, as the Sun Belt Conference has continued to expand and grow, and bring in some really, really good teams from other conferences, it has elevated the ability of us to be able to go into the first month and not have to go to Texas A&M or not have to go to Tennessee. Those were fun trips and those were valuable in all aspects, but now we can play a little bit more at home. I think that being able to sleep in your own bed and being able to compete as the home team is pretty warranted in terms of how you go throughout the course of a 50-game season in terms of keeping your legs under your players and just giving them what they need to stay rested and to stay at the to be able to play at the highest level and peak performance. And so, we have no slouches on our schedule at all. So we play Belmont at home first weekend, and then we have I believe we're at Jacksonville State over in Alabama, and then we're home for Alabama A&M and Western Carolina. And so the Western Carolina is a home and home. We were at Western Carolina last year, and so that's how we kind of schedule some things. And so, our first month is going to be, 9 out of those 12 games at home. I think it's important to go on the road for sure, to be able to just stay in a hotel room, just kind of be a visitor. You don't want your first time as a visitor to be, in your first, conference weekend game on the road. And so I think that our schedule is really good. I think it's competitive. I think it's allows us an opportunity to compete. I think that we have a chance to be able to put a good foot forward in terms of wins and losses. But, ultimately, I think that it's about preserving and teaching and growing and being able to make adjustments for when, we play South Alabama at home in your first weekend conference. And then, you kind of go into the juggernaut of the 10 weekends and, all the travel. I think we have 2 flights within the first month. And so, being able to go out there and go on the road and play in the cold and play in, the sun and play on turf and play on dirt, it's all a matter of, kind of how you construct that first month and a half of conference and non-conference. We'll play Georgia twice, I think, in the first 3 weeks. We play Georgia Tech. We're at South Carolina. And so we still have the big games, but they're not the weekend games. And so they're midweeks. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I really, truly am looking forward to getting out there and being able to start this season with this team.
Coach, always appreciate it. Looking forward to the start of the season. We'll be with you Select Radio, ESPN Plus for all the home conference games. And, looking forward to it. Should be a fun season.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that's Georgia State's head baseball coach Brad Stromdahl joining us here in the opening segment of our Georgia State baseball preview. Here in our Panther Insider podcast, driven by Ford. A reminder, if you've missed any of our previous podcasts, they're all available on our Apple Archives page. You can access that online at georgiastatesports.com. Coming up after this break, we'll continue our Georgia State baseball preview. We will talk with catcher Colin Hynek, the redshirt junior out of Rockmart, Georgia. That comes your way following these words from Ford and Center Park Credit Union. Whether you're a recent graduate, a young alumni, or an older alum, stay connected to your alma mater by becoming involved with the Georgia State University Alumni Association. The Alumni Office offers a wide variety of programs and services to keep you in touch, informed, and involved. Associate Vice President Christina Million.
Among our signature programs throughout the year, the Distinguished Alumni Awards, 40 Under 40 Honors, GSU Cares Day of Service, the Young Alumni Summit, as well as our Life Membership Program.
Representing nearly 285,000 alumni across Georgia and across the globe, the Alumni Association is here to serve, engage, and enhance the GSU community. Connect with us online at alumni.gsu.edu or call the Alumni Office at 404-413-2190. We're back in the Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. It's our Georgia State baseball preview as the Panthers get set to open the baseball season here in 2025. Right now, pleased to be joined by one of the veterans on this roster, and that's catcher Colin Hynek. He's a redshirt junior out of Rockmart, Georgia. 40 games last year in 2024, 23 starts, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. Appreciate you joining us and talk to Brad Stromdahl, head coach, in our opening segment. And, as they say, there's never really an off season. There is from the schedule of games that you play, but from the preparation standpoint, it just seems to continue. Talk a little bit about your off season. First of all, welcome to the Panther Insider podcast, but your off season since Georgia State got back from Montgomery in the Sun Belt Conference baseball tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not really an off season in college baseball, and that's one of the things I love about it. I think 2 days after our season ended, I was in a truck with Sam Schofield hitting an 18-hour drive up to Wilmer, Minnesota. Got there within 2 days. We were playing a game. So, there's really no breaks from there. It's 41 games in 42 days. I believe it's a 70-something game season up there in the Northwoods. Unfortunately, I did have to come back a little bit early. But we came back in late June or late July, early August, and we hit the ground running down here with Michael McGinnis, Jesse Donahoe every single day, trying to prep for the season, not only personally, but trying to take that step as old guys and being leaders and trying to get this program where we need to be.
How fun was that to be able to make the 18-hour drive and continue to play baseball, almost like low-level minor league baseball throughout the entire, for most of the summer?
Yeah, it was a blast up there. Like I said, getting home at 3:45, 4 o'clock in the morning after playing over in North Dakota, whether it's in Bismarck or Minot, and playing a 9 a.m. 45-degree game in the middle of June up in Minot. So, you're all over the place, but it's awesome to get to play in front of, a couple thousand fans, depending on where you are, grow a connection in the communities up there. And it's an awesome experience for sure.
What are some of the things, as you went up there to play summer ball, what are some of the things, whether it was offensively or defensively, you kind of put in the back of your mind, this is a couple of areas that I want to focus on to better my game?
Yeah, specifically it was offensively. I didn't have the year I wanted personally on offense last year, and I wanted to get up there and get it fixed. And for me, it was getting back to the basics, just trying to simplify as much as possible. I think I went into last year with these expectations that I needed to do more, and I didn't have to. I put way too much pressure on myself, and then just continue to dig a bigger hole. So getting up there and just making it fun again, making it simple, it was really helpful for me.
Brad was talking about leadership when it comes to the locker room and the field, and obviously, as he was telling me, he's going to look to you and to be that voice on the field. That's an extension of the coaches in the dugout. Not everybody embraces that role. It seems like obviously you do. I mean, you embrace being a leader, whether it's in the locker room or in the dugout or behind home plate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being a catcher, that's something that's part of the job, is being a leader. But also, again, guys like Michael McGinnis and Jesse Donahoe, we've been here for, at this point, 3-4 years between the three of us, and we're ready to take that next step as a program. We feel like we've knocked on the door. We've been here when this program's been standing right there at the top, and we've been there when we're fighting and clawing just to make the conference tournament. And we feel like we can not only compete but beat anybody in the conference. We feel we are more than capable of not only getting to a regional but winning a regional. And the three of us, we're ready to take that step, and we believe that our leadership needs to be what gets us there.
We were talking about the young pitchers on the staff. Obviously, you're going to play a part in that, helping these guys when they're on the hill. Talk a little bit about some of these guys and how you've seen them develop from wide-eyed freshmen that have come in. And as Brad said in the previous segment, got a lot of valuable experience on the hill last year to where they are, what you've seen from them in the offseason and where they are headed into 2025.
Yeah, as far as returners like Ross, even Metella coming back from an injury, those guys have really just taken a step forward. Their confidence has grown. Ross looks just completely different this time from where he was last year. And I'm excited for that guy. I'm excited to get him back on the mound for Metella. I'm excited for him to be healthy. I think he's going to be an absolute massive piece for us this year. And then for some of the new guys, especially the JUCO transfers, Jake Cruz, Carlos Carmona, Holbrook from Texas State, those guys are going to come in and play a massive role for us. And I don't think any moment's going to be too big for those guys.
We were talking about Sun Belt Conference play. As you said, Georgia State's been right there, been knocking on the door, been in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. It's about taking that next step.
Yeah, it is. It's about taking that next step. And like I said, we've been right there as far as, I believe a couple years ago, we went down to Statesboro right there at the top. We did that again this year. And we've competed with the best of the best. I think we set a team record for home runs in a weekend this year at Coastal Carolina, team that's always at the top, team that's always in a regional. And we feel like we can compete with anyone, not only that we can, but we will, and that's going to be on every pitch, every inning, and every game.
When it comes to traveling, is there a stadium, whether it's in the Sun Belt or non-conference, that you have played in that was memorable for you, a place that you had, maybe we'll call it a bucket list, place that you wanted to play in or that you're looking forward to playing in?
Ooh, probably my favorite one that we've played in so far in the Sun Belt has to be Coastal. It's a pretty cool spot. I'd like to be over at and see Louisiana's place. But probably my favorite place that I've been in my time here was the series down at Florida. Florida's got a pretty cool ballpark down there.
You're a student athlete at Georgia State. How do you enjoy being a student athlete in the middle of the large city of Atlanta?
It's fun, man. I always laugh when people ask me about Georgia State. The best part about being in the city is there's always something to do, and sometimes the worst part about being in the city is there's always something to do. But we're in classes all together. You know, I think I've had every single class for the last 3 years with Jesse Donahoe. So I mean, being a student down here, what I've, you know, education-wise, everything, being an athlete here, it's been a tremendous experience.
Tell Panther fans what you're studying and what you're looking forward to doing in the future.
So I'm a sports administration major. I do have one more year, so I plan on graduating this summer and doing something in business, and I'd love to either something in coaching the sports world or similar to what my dad does and become a financial advisor.
All right, well, it's been great talking to you. Best of luck this year. Start of the season will be here before you know it, and we'll talk again. Best of luck this season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, I want to thank Colin Hynek joining us here in the second segment of our Georgia State baseball preview on the Panther Insider podcast. Also, thanks to Georgia State head coach Brad Stromdahl. Again, I want to thank both of them for taking the time to talk a little Georgia State baseball with me. Follow Georgia State baseball all season online at georgiastatesports.com. And this season, once again, you can join us for conference games on ESPN Plus and select games on the Georgia State Radio Network on WGTJ FM 97.5, as well as the GSU Athletics mobile app. Reminder, we're back talking Georgia State athletics again on the next Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. Dave Cohen saying thanks for listening. We'll see you at Panthersville. We'll see you at Center Park Stadium or the GSU Convocation. And as always, go Panthers!